I was still holding the plaque when they fired me. They spelled my name wrong. Benjamin Holt. One letter off. No one noticed. I stood under the fluorescence of conference room 4A as HR wrapped up the applause. There was cake in the corner, the kind with that too sweet corporate frosting and thank you for your dedication piped in blue cursive. The room was already clearing when Martin from HR leaned in and whispered, "Can you come with me for just a second?" He didn't look me in the eye. No one ever does right before they pull the trigger. I followed him without speaking. The glass door to the executive wing was already open. Sarah, the new chief of people operations, stood beside a small man I didn't recognize. He looked like a lawyer or maybe someone pretending to be one, the kind who learned body language from YouTube tutorials. "Ben," she said with a smile so wide it bordered on sociopathic, "we've had to make a very difficult strategic decision. It's not about performance. It's just a shift." They always say that. A shift. Like people get scraped off balance sheets like gum off shoes. I was still holding the plaque. "We're restructuring," she continued, "and your position has been impacted. No mention of my 17 years here. No mention of the 3 back-end rebuilds I had carried solo. No mention of the weekend outages I stopped before anyone above floor 4 even noticed." Martin shifted awkwardly beside me. His silence was louder than Sarah's speech. "I understand," I said. She blinked like she wasn't expecting that. Martin gestured toward the hallway. A security contractor, different one from the normal guys, was waiting with a small cardboard box. I was still in the same room where they handed me the Employee of the Year plaque 15 minutes earlier. No one said goodbye. The walk to my office was the longest I'd taken in 17 years. It was like everything was already scrubbed. My nameplate gone, desk drawer emptied, laptop disconnected. I didn't even have a jacket to collect. Just a thermal mug I'd used every day since 2012 and a broken back office chair no one ever replaced. As we passed the second floor landing, I caught sight of the lobby poster they'd mounted last quarter. A glass frame, white letters on navy. "We value loyalty." I stopped for a second, just long enough for Martin to glance nervously over his shoulder. Then I walked out the doors. I stood in the parking lot, holding a plaque with my name misspelled, watching the security guy walk back inside. He didn't say a word, just handed me my box and turned around. My car was parked in the furthest corner of the lower lot. No shade. Just 47 empty spaces between me and the exit. The air smelled like wet pavement and something sour from the nearby waste unit. I sat in the front seat for a long time, plaque in the passenger seat, hands on the steering wheel. The phone in my jacket buzzed. Slack notifications. Voicemails. Texts from the few still pretending not to know. One from my ex-wife. "Told you they'd replace you eventually." I powered it off, not out of spite, not even anger. I just didn't want to hear what came next. When I got home, the lights were off. The fridge hummed like it always did, too loud for the small apartment. Divorce papers still sat on the kitchen table, unopened. The plaque went face down on the counter. I poured a glass of water and sat on the edge of the bed. My laptop stayed zipped in my work bag. I didn't have it in me to check anything. Not yet. I lay back, arms across my chest, and for the first time in months, I fell asleep before midnight. I woke up at 4:17 a.m. Something about the silence felt louder than usual. Not a single vibration. No screen light. No just checking in message from the dev team. No 3 a.m. status ping from the East Coast scheduler I built 4 years ago. The absence was an answer. It meant one thing. They were already trying to fix it without me, and I knew exactly what would break first. I didn't open my phone when I woke up. Not at first. I sat at the edge of the bed and stared at the plaque still face down on the counter. The apartment was too quiet, too clean. My coffee pot clicked on at 6 a.m., like it always did. No reason to change that setting now. The calendar notification on my wall screen blinked red. 6:15 a.m. Department sync, 3rd floor conference room. I made it to that meeting every day for 10 years. Even when my father died. Even the morning after the divorce hearing. I watched the light fade from red to gray. Then I picked up the plaque and slid it into the trash under the sink. I didn't need a reminder. I already knew what I'd given them. At 8:07 a.m., HR emailed me a follow-up with the subject line, "Thank you for your service. Transition documentation." It was boilerplate. A link to a severance FAQ that said, "If eligible," and a non-disclosure agreement attached as a PDF. No mention of a package, no mention of support. Just my responsibilities to them. Asked if I wanted to help consult for a startup focused on whistleblower protection infrastructure. I told him no. I wasn't interested in building shields for people who wouldn't listen until the damage was already done. I was interested in silence. My kind of silence. Ashley's mom found me through a friend of a friend, sent a message. Just 2 lines. "You saved my daughter from something I'll never understand. Thank you." I read it once. Didn't reply. Didn't need to. She already knew. I moved cities by the end of the month. No announcement, no forwarding address. I donated every box of old uniforms, badges, and facility keys to a thrift store outside the county line. Started going by my middle name at the new job. No one there knows what happened. No one there asks why I don't talk about my last employer. And no one there knows that every locker room I walk past still makes my pulse change for half a second. I saw a news update last week. One of the board members took a job with a biotech company. In the photo, he smiled like nothing ever happened. But I noticed the comments were limited, because people remember. The Chronicle ran a 1 year later piece, included a quote from the DA, said their office had created a new internal department for workplace retaliation cases, said the first case that shaped the department was anonymous, but referred to a dismissed employee whose meticulous record-keeping allowed for convictions, audits, and legislation. They never named me, but the people who mattered knew. I'm not angry anymore. I don't miss the job. I don't want an apology. I don't want recognition. I just wanted someone to see what I saw, and to believe it, before they blamed me for it. The last line of my original report, the one that got lost, still lives in my backup. I read it sometimes, just to remember how quiet justice can sound. No further action taken. Device disabled. Footage preserved. Let the evidence speak. And now it has. Loud enough for everyone. Quiet enough for me. I sat in a booth at a truck stop diner outside town. No one knew me there. That was the point. I ordered eggs and toast and watched frost build on the edge of the window. The waitress called me Han and refilled my coffee without asking. It was the most respect I'd been shown all week. I flipped open the laptop and logged into my test environment, an old private server I'd kept since the DevCore days. It wasn't connected to the company directly, not anymore, but I'd set it to ping Huron-Tech's system logs every 24 hours, mostly just to see what broke. The error log was already 114 entries deep. System out of sync. Payroll TXN pipe not responding. Client API timeout. 503. Bad gateway. Int partner 01. Cache invalidation failed. Access denied. Auth token override. Null object called on daemon root. They weren't critical yet. Just loud. To someone like me, though, it was the sound of stitches popping. That same morning, a recruiter messaged me on LinkedIn. Saw the news. Can't believe it. You free to talk this week? I didn't respond. I didn't need a job. What I needed was distance. Let the cracks form on their own. By day 5, my old coworker Melissa texted me, "Can I ask you something? Did you ever write a manual for the invoice sync scheduler? They're saying it never existed." I stared at the message and imagined the panic room. Their new head of engineering trying to reverse engineer a system built on handwritten logic, duct-taped patches, and 12 years of bug fixes I never explained to anyone, because no one asked. They just expected me to catch the fall before it happened. Later that afternoon, I walked the wooded trail near the lake. No headphones, just snow crunching under boots and birds I couldn't name. The water was still frozen. Not solid, not safe. Just enough to fool the untrained eye. Kind of like the company, I thought. From the outside, everything still looked functional. But one wrong step. I stopped by Jeffries and Moxon Legal that same day. Small firm, quiet building. Old friend of my father's worked there. The receptionist didn't ask questions, just led me to the back. "Mr. Doyle will see you now." I handed him a manila folder and sat down across from his desk. "I don't want to sue anyone," I said. "I just want to make sure I'm covered." He opened the folder, read in silence for 5 minutes, then closed it gently. "You built the infrastructure?" "Yes." "And these are your diagrams? Handwritten?" "All of them." He nodded slowly. "Smart. Most people never prepare for the crash until after it's already happened. I've always been early. On day 6, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. A woman's voice, clipped, irritated. "This is Sarah Freeman from Huron-Tech. Please return this call. We're having some difficulty locating the full backup structure for your automation tools. There appear to be undocumented dependencies. We need clarity immediately." She didn't say please again. I didn't call back. Day 7. The junior dev I'd trained, Toby, posted something on a public forum. "You don't remove the heart of the system and expect it to beat. Just saying." The post got a few dozen likes before it was deleted, but not before screenshots made their way around. On the evening of the 7th day, I checked the logs again. A new entry blinked red at the top of the screen. Emergency failover activated. Daemon root unresponsive. Backup failed. Sysrec unmounted. Fatal error. Unknown process. Triggered self-shutdown. There was a timestamp beside the alert. 5:58 p.m. I closed the laptop and leaned back in the booth. The diner TV was playing muted footage of some executive giving a press conference. A ticker at the bottom scrolled across the screen. Huron Tech experiencing system issues. Client impact unconfirmed. I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I wasn't surprised. By the time the 8th day rolled around, the emails were coming in waves. Urgent, workflow sync issue. High priority, client loss risk. Can we please talk? None of them got a reply. I left the laptop closed and walked out of the cafe into the wind. That evening, I sat on a bench beside the lake. The sun set slow, like it was in no hurry. I watched it without blinking. The system was collapsing on its own now, and I hadn't touched a thing. The first voicemail came in at 7:13 a.m. Hi, Benjamin. This is Carla from Admin Ops. We're doing a sweep of all project documentation and wondered if you could hop on a quick call sometime today to help clarify the invoice routing logic. Really appreciate it. She was trying to sound casual. I didn't return the call. By 8:30, there were 5 more. I didn't check them. I sat at the same diner, same booth, coffee going cold while the waitress wiped down nearby tables. My laptop stayed shut. The plaque, face down, sat in the passenger seat of my car, where I'd left it the day they fired me. I still hadn't moved it. At 9:04 a.m., my old coworker Melissa sent a message. The CFO is losing it. 3 clients pulled contracts this morning. No backups. Legal's involved. It's getting bad. A minute later, she followed with another. You didn't do anything, did you? I didn't reply, not because I was hiding, but because I didn't need to explain gravity to someone watching the fall. At 10:23 a.m., the new CTO called twice in a row. I let it go to voicemail both times. The third attempt came from an unknown number. Still no answer. That's when the text came in. CTO, unknown. We may have misjudged the situation. Can we talk? This isn't about blame, it's about continuity. I put the phone back in my pocket and sipped the coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. By noon, I'd racked up 13 voicemails. Some begging, some angry. One from HR that sounded almost rehearsed. Benjamin, we understand emotions are high, but you still have a duty to uphold your confidentiality agreement. If you're still in possession of any documentation, I stopped the message there. It wasn't about documentation. It was about dependence. They'd gutted the heart of their infrastructure and replaced it with optics and optimism. Now the blood wasn't circulating. At 1:07 p.m., a different number called, one I hadn't seen in years. Everett Brandt, board member, former founder before the merger. Old school, quiet, the kind who wears cufflinks even on Fridays. Voicemail. Ben, I know you're getting a lot of noise. Just want to say, I remember what you built, what you prevented, what you fixed at 3 a.m. when no one else knew anything was wrong. If you want to talk, I'll listen. He hung up without a callback number. Didn't need one. At 2:42 p.m., the ping came through, the one I'd been waiting for. Not a call, not a message, just a system alert from a legacy node that hadn't been shut down yet. Huron sync auth, requesting root validation, access failure, X22 attempts. I'd coded that behavior 10 years ago. Fail silently 21 times. Ping me on 22. It meant they'd tried every password they could think of, every bypass, every override, and none of it had worked. The system had come back to me. I didn't respond. At 3:16 p.m., Melissa sent one more message. They brought in outside consultants, but they don't understand the setup. They're talking about rebuilding from scratch. I imagined it. Dozens of suits in a sterile war room, drawing diagrams they didn't understand on whiteboards, throwing buzzwords like lifelines. One of them would eventually suggest bringing me back, not because they wanted to, because they'd have no choice. At 4:08 p.m., a black sedan pulled up outside my cabin, unmarked, quiet. I was on the porch, didn't stand, didn't wave, just watched the car idle for 30 seconds before the window rolled down. The CEO stepped out, same man who stood behind Sarah when she handed me the plaque and the termination papers. He didn't look like he'd slept. Ben, he called out. Can we talk? I didn't answer. He took a few steps forward. We didn't understand how embedded your work was. We didn't have visibility. The CTO didn't know the full scope. Neither did I. That's on me. Still nothing. He tried again. We're not here to argue. We need your help. The systems... He stopped himself. Things are bad. I stood up. Not to move toward him, just to end the conversation. Good night, I said. Then walked back inside, closed the door. Didn't slam it. Didn't lock it. Just closed it. And waited for the silence to settle again. At 6:52 p.m., I turned my phone on for the first time in 2 days. 62 unread messages. I cleared them all without reading a single one. The meeting wasn't scheduled. It was arranged. Everett Brandt didn't ask. He called once, left no voicemail. 12 hours later, an encrypted invite appeared in my inbox. Private consultation, 11 a.m. Tuesday. Ashwood Hotel, Suite 1914. No agenda, no attachments, Just my name, the date, and a location. I accepted with a single click. The hotel was old money. Walnut walls, brass elevators, silence piped through velvet carpets. Suite 1914 had its own fireplace, 2 decanters, and a plate of untouched croissants. Everett was already seated at the head of the table. He didn't rise when I entered, didn't smile, just gestured to the seat across from him. "Ben." I nodded once and sat. Across from us sat a man in a tailored navy suit, late 30s, fast watch, nervous knee, no tie. He didn't introduce himself, which meant legal. Good. I set the folder on the table and slid it across without a word. Everett placed one hand on it but didn't open it right away. "Do you want to explain what's in here?" the suit asked. "No," I said. "Ben," Everett said gently, "we're hoping to resolve this amicably. No litigation, no headlines." I said nothing. He opened the folder. Inside was one printed page, 3 lines of code, and a sticky note in my handwriting. Section 4.12, license reversion upon personnel elimination. The man in the navy suit leaned in, confused. "What is this?" Everett didn't answer. He was already pale. 6 years ago, buried inside an internal system upgrade proposal, a change so technical no one on the board would have read past the first page, I'd inserted an automatic fallback clause. If my administrative access was revoked without just cause and without redundancy approval, the rights to the proprietary logic engine I designed would revert to me under dormant contractor status. In other words, they fired the wrong person, the wrong way, with the wrong paperwork, and now I owned their central nervous system. The man in the suit looked up, suddenly understanding. This can't hold. This was buried. No one flagged it. I met his eyes. "You're right." He relaxed. "It's not about whether it was flagged. I let that hang. Then, it's about whether the code has already enforced it." He blinked. Everett looked like he aged 10 years in 10 seconds. I stood, didn't take the folder back, didn't ask for a deal, didn't request payment or apologies or threats. I just said, "Thank you for your time," and left the suite. They didn't follow me out. They didn't call after me. And as the elevator doors closed, I saw Everett slide the folder shut, lean back, and stare at the ceiling like it had betrayed him too. I walked out of the Ashwood Hotel into mid-morning light and kept walking until I couldn't see the building anymore. Didn't check my phone. Didn't refresh my inbox. I didn't need to. The world already knew who had control now, and I didn't have to say a word. 3 weeks later, I received a check. Certified mail, heavy envelope. No letter, just a number, a signature, and a company logo I used to care about. I left it unopened on the counter for 6 days. On the 7th, I slid it into a drawer beneath the sink. Let it live there. Next to the plaque, still face down, still misspelled. The headlines came quietly. Huron Tech executive restructuring after system outages. Departures continue amidst legal confusion. Key infrastructure specialist leaves behind licensing questions. They didn't mention my name. They never do when they're hoping no one notices. But I noticed. Everett sent an email. Subject line, "No hard feelings." It contained no text, just a PDF of a resignation letter dated 2 days prior. I didn't respond. I archived it. I live by the lake now. Rent's cheap. Neighbors mind their business. There's a trail behind the house that leads into the trees. Sometimes I take my coffee there in the morning, before the world gets loud. Sometimes I don't. I built something new, quietly. No press, no board, no Employee of the Year awards, just clients who understand why silence costs extra. I named the company Clockroot. No branding, just a white page and a single line. We fix what others don't understand. I get maybe 1 new client a month. That's enough. I don't want to scale. I want to sleep. And now I do. The system pings me every few days, not because it needs me, because it's still looking for me. Heartbeat checks, legacy sync pulses, back-end crawl failures. Someone forgot to sever the deep node, the one I built 10 years ago, back when I believed systems should outlive their creators. They never disabled the ping. And I never told them where it leads. Sometimes I open the terminal just to watch it try. Auth request, Huron Core, daemon root, ping status. 44 failed attempts, last ping, 23 minutes ago. Then I close the window. No response. Still. The plaque still sits in the drawer, untouched, misspelled, cheap glass over gold paint. But I keep it, not for the recognition, not for the insult, not even for the irony. I keep it to remember exactly what it sounds like when a system breaks itself trying to cut out the part keeping it alive. That's all for this story. I'll be back with another one. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It motivates me to create more content like this.